The movie opens in 1991, with a group of young people gathered for a party near a place called the Baypen Corn Syrup Factory. A girl is seen winding up a Baypen music box, and as the tune plays, a clown figure suddenly pops out from within. The girl then looks at her boyfriend and invites him to have some fun. She walks into the cornfield nearby, and her excited boyfriend also follows her. But he soon loses sight of her, and then notices a huge footprint in the dirt, which worries him. Moments later, the guy finally finds his girlfriend, but she suddenly begins spitting blood and urges him to run before collapsing dead. Panic hits him, and he desperately tries to run away from there. Unfortunately, he does not get very far.
What the fuck?
The scene then cuts to the present day, where we see a teenage girl, Quinn, and her father, Glenn, driving in a car. They soon arrive at their new home in the small town of Kettle Springs, where they plan to start fresh and rebuild their lives. We also learn that their house is just near the Baypen corn syrup factory. The next day, Quinn gets ready to leave for her first day of school, but she's shocked to find an awkward boy standing at her doorstep. He introduces himself as Rust, their neighbor, and invites her to walk to school with him. She agrees without thinking much, and later is surprised to notice how quiet and strange the town is. Afterward, Quinn arrives at her class, where the teacher, Mr. Verne, informs her she's late and asks her to take a seat. During the class, the students play a prank on him by photoshopping his picture onto a bodybuilder's body. This enrages Mr. Verne, who gives everyone a test paper, and Quinn a detention for being late. A student named Cole states it's not fair for Quinn, so the teacher gives him detention too. After class, Quinn hangs out with Cole's group, which includes Janet, Ronnie, Tucker, and Matt. Quinn doesn't understand what she did wrong, so they explain that Mr. Verne is a bitter old man who hates them, so they hate him back more. During the conversation, Quinn learns that Cole's dad is the mayor of the town, and their family owns Baypen companies. Because of this, the town celebrates a festival called Founders Day, where everyone gathers around a giant float themed around the clown named Friendo, who is the Baypen company's mascot. The group reveals how they turned Friendo into a serial killer character, and often dress up as him to make parody videos. They upload these on YouTube, where their channel has grown huge, with around 65,000 subscribers. Afterward, Quinn goes to a diner with her dad, where the old waitress is very kind to Glenn, but rude to the teenager. The two then meet with the local sheriff, Dunn, who reveals that the old syrup factory in town recently burned down. At this moment, Cole's group arrives outside, so the sheriff calls and urges Quinn to stay away from them. In the evening, the teenagers' group is seen partying excitedly and having fun. Quinn takes this moment to ask them about the factory that recently burned down. Cole reveals that they snuck inside and filmed one of their videos there. However, they insist they did not start the fire, which was later discovered to be the result of faulty wiring. But the coincidence is too big, and nobody really believes they are innocent. Not far away, Matt is relieving himself when he's suddenly attacked by someone, and his screams are heard by his friends. Matt returns with guts spilled out, and someone in a Friendo costume also appears, so Quinn screams and tries to run away, but everyone bursts out laughing as it was just a prank. The clown is actually Tucker, and Janet was recording the whole thing. Afterward, Quinn and Cole spend some time together, and he asks about her family. She reveals that her mom died of a drug overdose last summer, and since then, her surgeon dad hasn't been able to return to the ER. Quinn explains that Kettle Springs had an opening for a family doctor, which is why they moved here. Hearing this, Cole feels bad for her, and shares that his younger sister also passed away last summer by drowning. Later that night, Quinn is at home, where she watches the parody video the group made earlier. But her heart sinks in fear when she notices that behind the fake clown, there was a real clown silently lurking in the rubble. Scared, Quinn quickly takes a screenshot and sends it to the group chat. Tucker checks it out just as he gets a doorbell camera alert on his phone, and it reveals someone in a Friendo mask standing right outside, but he assumes it's just Cole. Tucker then grabs a Nerf gun and walks through the house, but finds nothing except dirty footprints. However, when he returns to his room, he finds a Baypen music box in his closet. Tucker thinks it's still a prank. But then all of a sudden, the scene then cuts to the Founders' Day festival, where all the townspeople have gathered. Cole's mayor dad, Arthur, gives a welcome speech, after which a parade kicks off with music and cheers. During this, Quinn meets up with Ronnie and Janet, asking if they have found out who the second clown was, and the girls think it might be Rust, who used to be friends with Cole. Just then, Cole shows up, and Janet excitedly reveals they've got something wild planned to film. Moments later, a guy wearing nothing but a Friendo mask rides in on a unicycle, doing fire tricks. But things spiral out of control when one of the flaming props slips from his hand and crashes onto the massive Friendo float. The float immediately catches fire, sending the crowd into a state of panic. Upon seeing the chaos, Cole, Janet, Quinn, and Ronnie panic and try to leave quickly, but they are stopped by Sheriff Dunn, who accuses them of causing all of this and arrests them. The teens desperately claim they didn't do it, but the sheriff throws them into jail. Inside the cell, an old man cryptically warns them not to mess with Friendo, or else they will die. The next day, the teenagers are finally released from jail and allowed to go home. The scene then cuts to Matt, who is working out at his home. Suddenly, he spots a Baypen music box nearby, but he thinks his friends are messing with him and tosses it in the trash. As Matt starts lifting weights, Friendo suddenly appears out of nowhere and refuses to let Matt put the barbell down. The psycho slides a sharp handsaw onto the barbell, and he pushes it down his throat, brutally ending his life. Later that night, Quinn gets a text from Cole, who invites her to hang out at a party. She quietly heads downstairs, and notices her dad is fast asleep, so she takes the chance to sneak out. Quinn gets into a car with Cole, who gives her the same Baypen music box. She begins to play it when they unexpectedly come across Rust, who has just hunted a deer. Cole exchanges a brief and awkward conversation with him before they drive off. Afterward, Cole and Quinn arrive at a barn, where a huge party is in full swing. They meet Janet and Ronnie, who are wondering where the hell Tucker and Matt are. They suspect the two are planning some big prank, and warn everyone to stay on high alert. After a brief lively dance, Cole and Quinn head to a nearby shed to hook up. But Cole is uninterested for some reason, so Quinn feels like an idiot and leaves. Outside, Janet and Ronnie approach Quinn and smugly inform her that Cole rejects everyone. Moments later, a girl suddenly screams in the nearby cornfield and bursts out, revealing an arrow deeply lodged in her back. The girls assume that it's just another prank and cautiously move to check on her. Suddenly, someone hurls a masked head at Janet, and when they pull off the mask, it shockingly turns out to be Matt. Quinn seems scared, but Janet still insists the whole thing is nothing more than a prank. However, Quinn checks the collapsed girl's pulse and realizes that she's truly dead, sending a wave of panic through the group. Just then, Friendo bursts out of the cornfield, and does this. Chaos erupts as the students scream and lock themselves in the barn, leaving Janet, Quinn, and Ronnie stranded outside. The trio is relentlessly pursued by Friendo, who keeps firing arrows dangerously close to them. Luckily, Rust arrives just in time, and blasts the killer with his shotgun, killing him. The group then considers calling 911, but there's no signal in the area. To make matters worse, Friendo has slashed everyone's car tires and drained their batteries. The scared teens try to remove the mask to see who's beneath it, but their hearts drop when several more Friendos emerge from the cornfield, each armed with different weapons. The killers then approach them to attack, so Rust quickly shoots one of them and blasts his hand apart. At the same time, another Friendo lunges aggressively at Quinn, but Cole suddenly appears and knocks him out with a heavy iron bar. The group desperately runs away as a swarm of crazy Friendos chases them through the barn. Meanwhile, Quinn's father realizes she's left home without permission, which infuriates him greatly. Elsewhere, Cole's group locks themselves in a small shed, while the Friendos outside begin banging on the door and laughing like maniacs. One of them almost manages to destroy the wooden wall, so Rust urgently uses 2 of his last 3 bullets to kill him. An enraged Cole scolds him for wasting bullets, but Rust unexpectedly accuses him of abandoning him. Here, the girls are shocked to realize that these 2 boys were actually gay and lovers. The group then notices a sewer from which they can escape, and Russ suggests using the gallons of fuel to distract the friendos. Elsewhere, Glenn is searching for his daughter all over town, and when he passes by his clinic, he notices signs of a break-in. He rushes inside when suddenly a friendo appears, pressing a knife coldly against his throat. He then orders the doctor to treat his friend, who is badly injured. A confused Glenn asks what's happening, but the friendo threatens to kill his daughter if he doesn't obey immediately. Returning to the shed, several friendos are close to breaking in, so Russ stays behind to set a fire while the others finally get into the sewer. The clowns soon manage to break in, but are hit by a huge explosion caused by the gasoline, while the teenagers safely arrive outside. When Russ still doesn't show up, a worried Cole wants to go back for him, but the girls suggest going to a couple named Tillerson's house, where they can find a landline to make a call. They then make their way through the cornfield, and arrive at the main road, where they soon spot a car coming, and it turns out to be Sheriff Dunn. The sheriff is furious upon seeing the bloodied teenagers with a gun and immediately arrests Cole. The group tries to explain that they were attacked by clowns, but the sheriff doesn't believe them. He then drives off with Cole while ignoring the girls' desperate pleas, and leaving them stranded alone in the dangerous place. With no other choice, the girls start going through the cornfield again to make their way to the Tillersons. But to their horror, they soon come across another friendo, who begins chasing them with a chainsaw. The girls run frantically, but at one point, Ronnie is captured, and the clown drives the chainsaw straight through her body. This horrifies Quinn and Janet, but they take this chance to run away from there. Not long after, the two arrive at the Tillersons' home, where they spot a lifeless clown slumped in the living room. The girls then finds a phone, but they can't call anyone since they don't know how to use a rotary phone. Soon, their hearts sink when they see a bulletin board filled with their pictures, and old newspaper clippings about brutal murders of teens in the area over the years. They also find a Baypen music box placed on a table, and realize that it's a trap. The horrified girls rush downstairs, right when this happens. He then comes after Quinn, but she bravely pulls the pitchfork out of Janet's body and drives it into the friendo. Both the clown and Janet declare that they hate Quinn before passing away. Quinn feels distraught by her actions and grabs a car key before fleeing the house. Elsewhere, Glenn disconnects the cardiac detectors in the injured man's body and then pretends to panic. He frantically orders another friendo to hold the defibrillator to help his friend. The latter drops his knife, prompting Glenn to immediately grab it and brutally stab the friendo's neck. After the man dies, Glenn grabs his walkie-talkie and hears someone ordering that the girl must be brought to the Baypen factory. Meanwhile, Quinn climbs into a car and tries to leave, but she can't drive because it's a stick shift. To make matters worse, a group of friendos suddenly appears and abducts her, cutting off any chance of escape. Sometime later, Quinn gains consciousness, and finds herself in the abandoned corn syrup factory surrounded by many friendos. She asks who they are, so they begin removing their masks one by one, and to her shock, it turns out to be several townspeople, including Sheriff Dunn, the diner owner, the waitress, and her teacher, Mr. Vern. Even more shocking is when their leader appears, who turns out to be none other than the mayor, Arthur. Next, Arthur explains to Quinn that this is a long-standing tradition in the town dating back to the early 20th century. The townspeople dress up as friendo, and target teenagers in the community whom they believe are tarnishing their reputation, such as kids who go to the barn to party and drink. After saying this, Arthur pulls back a curtain, revealing Cole tied up by his neck, hanging from the ceiling. A horrified Quinn wonders how Arthur could do this to his own son, but the mayor coldly reveals that he has disowned the boy. He blames Cole for his sister's unfortunate death, as she drowned on his watch. Following this, Sheriff Dunn raises his gun to shoot Quinn, but is abruptly interrupted when Glenn crashes in with his car. Amid the chaos, one of the friendos' heads is crushed by a cinder block, while the waitress is impaled on a pipe. Glenn then rushes to help Cole, but he's suddenly shot by the sheriff, causing him to collapse to the ground. A panicked Quinn locks herself in one of the rooms, where she finds several friendo costumes. Sheriff Dunn soon breaks inside, and struggles to find her among several mannequins. He fires blindly at one of them, just as Quinn grabs a cattle prod and drives it down his throat, ending his miserable life. Meanwhile, Cole is precariously supported against Glenn's car. He questions his dad if he orchestrated the factory fire to collect insurance money, as the business was failing. Arthur smugly admits it, and then speeds away in Glenn's car, leaving Cole hanging by his neck. Seeing this, an injured Glenn rushes to help him, but can't hold on much longer. Luckily, Rust unexpectedly arrives and uses his shotgun to cut the rope and free Cole. The two boys finally reconcile and kiss. At this moment, Quinn also arrives, and the four survivors quickly climb into Glenn's car. Since it's a stick shift once again, Glenn guides her daughter how to drive. They are soon stopped by the final friendo, Mr. Vern, standing right in their path with a chainsaw. But they decide that they are done running. The scene then cuts to a year later where Quinn prepares to leave for college, while Glenn fiercely campaigns to become mayor of Kettle Springs. Rust and Cole arrive to see her off, and hand over a baton for protection in the new place. As Quinn drives away in her car, she unexpectedly comes across a Baypen music box, implying that the nightmare may not be over, but she simply tosses it out of the window, and this is where the movie ends. Thus, we reach the end of this movie. Thanks for watching. If you like the movie, support us. Don't forget to subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next movie. Goodbye.